This is the Healthology Experts, where we talk about the art and science of health and longevity. I'm Dr. Traveler, and thank you for joining us. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by our Healthology Experts Weight Loss Accelerator Program. It's really 5 components, really quick, we'll go through. It's the contour light. It's a device that pumps energy into the body and helps you to just be healthier and lose inches. It's our peptides, so it's the semaglutide injections. It's the STIQ scan. It's the coaching for diet and exercise, and then coaching for lifestyle. And if you look at those things, it's like something to just make you overall more healthy, make you feel better, something to help you lose the weight that you've been struggling to lose. For many people, that's a challenge. Something to track your results and really track them really well. Something to change your habits, your eating and exercise habits, and then something to change and help you have a better mindset. Okay, so with those 5 things, our Healthology Expert Weight Loss Accelerator Program has been successful for helping so many people, and we hope that if that's a challenge for you, that it can help you as well. So brought to you by that, and enjoy the episode. Hey you guys, welcome to today's podcast. Today you get just me because there's a little bit of an update. So it's all good. We're coming up on the summer, and I am actually going to be gone for a little bit. So there's going to be probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, where we're probably I'm not going to be able to have a podcast. It's really cool. I'm going to be headed to Brazil with my son. So we're going to go do a service, kind of a service project type thing. And we're going to go help build a school in Brazil. And so I'm really excited, super duper excited. The office is still going to be open. I'm going to have, Dr. Hatch is going to be covering for me. We're also going to be doing some discounts, so watch for those on all of our services. So contour light, all the Healthology Expert weight loss plans and all those stuff, the soft wave, laser, everything, therapies is going to be discounted while I'm gone. It's kind of like while the cat's away, the mice will play type of deal. So watch for all of those. Today, what I wanted to talk about is my race report. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I've had a lot of comments this week. So for any of you who follow us on social media, and actually with the last time that the last podcast that we had was with Marty, and I talked about my struggle with the triathlon that I had. I did an Ironman 70.3. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that and reflect upon the lessons that can be learned. You know, we talk about being healthier physically, mentally, spiritually, and I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from challenges that we run into. So I'm just going to give kind of a quick synopsis of the race and talk a little bit about lessons that can be learned from that. So we're about a week removed now. It's Friday, and the race was last Saturday. Now, leading up to this, I felt very prepared. I felt like I've actually lately been in great shape. I've been doing about a half marathon a month for almost 2 years now, or more. Not longer time, so a half marathon or more. And I've always said, once you get to that point, people say, man, you're crazy doing the races and stuff like that. But it's actually easier to maintain. I've discovered that you can easily maintain your health. And if you're building, like if you, I've run a lot of marathons, and in the past, it's marathon season and then you kind of fall off, and that is hard. That's difficult to train, fully train for a big marathon. Now, obviously there's ups and downs in my training, and I take some time off and things like that. But I felt like I've been in good shape. I've started to incorporate more of the swimming. I've been swimming I'm sure it's not a ton because I've tried to keep a really good balance. For me, I have a full-time job. I have, 5 kids, 4 kids still at home. And they're young. And so I've kind of said, I want to be careful how much time I'm spending with my training because I only have a certain amount of time. And I felt like my training went well. I've done a lot of cycling, considering the amount of time that I've had. Cycling's the hard one. If you're looking to get into triathlons, and again, I know Marty, her favorite leg is the bike. I know a lot of people love the bike, and it's really fun. My biggest issue is just the time. It takes a lot of time on a bike to properly train for that. So like for running to me is easy because, I can train and run early in the morning and I'm done with my training before my family even knows that I'm gone. Whereas with a bike, I feel like you've got to be out there for a long time, and you can still wake up early, and that makes me a little nervous too because you're right there on the road. And so I don't know. It's just been time-wise a little bit tough, but I feel like I've done a pretty good job with training. I've done a lot on the trainer where you're kind of spinning at home on my bike. So they call it butt time, just time in the saddle where you're just spinning, and I felt like that went well. And I swam a lot. Now, here's where I made some big errors. Well, we'll hit the errors in just a minute. We'll go to the race. So come race day, all that week, I wasn't feeling well. I woke up a week before and had a lot of congestion. Still have a little bit, but had a ton of congestion, didn't feel well. Didn't really feel great all week. I know patients made a lot of comments. I worked in a mask because you know how you're like, I'm not completely wiped out, and patients were hurting, and so I kind of was right on that edge of like, should I stay home or should I continue to work? And I chose to work and wear a mask, and I felt like I was keeping everybody, safe with my mask and washing hands and all that stuff, but I didn't feel great. So come race day, I was probably at about 80%. My right ear was kind of clogged, and I don't know if that made a difference, but the day of the race came, I was in my wetsuit, excuse me, and it was just, I don't know, like the water was a little colder than I was expecting. I jumped in, swam okay for the first little bit, and then kind of started to panic. I don't know if it was the cold, but then I just kept swimming, and as I was swimming, all of a sudden I put my head up because you're supposed to spot, and I was like clear out, and when I look at my GPS, I had swam clear off to the side, and I was like heading out of bounds. And so I peeked my head up, and there's people like yelling saying, "You're going too far." So I turn and I'm coming back, and then and I can't really find on course. I keep kind of drifting to the left, and then I flip onto my back because I'm like, okay, let me just catch my breath and get my bearings, and the swim just was going really rough. And then I had to turn, and as I turned, I thought I turned, and I actually was going back. I don't know how. I was so disoriented, like as disoriented as I've ever been, just in general. It was kind of scary. I'm sure I talked to some others, and they were disoriented, and I don't know. I just had a really hard time. I could tell they had kind of assigned someone to watch out for me. I was a hazard out there, because then I started to like crisscross, and I was coming, into the line of other people, and I was trying to stay out of their way. I was trying to stay on the outside, but I couldn't. So for a little while I was drifting out, and then I was drifting too far in, and then I was like cutting clear inside, and they said, hey, if you don't hit this buoy, you're not gonna, you're gonna be out of bounds. And so I had to swim back to the buoy. Finally, I had to like take my goggles off and like breaststroke so I could see where I was going for about the last quarter of the time. Needless to say, I was aiming for about 40 to 45 minutes on the swim. I was out there for an hour and 7 minutes. So it was like as horrific as a swim could get, minus being pulled from the water. I've heard some other horror stories about people throwing up and that. I didn't do that, but like I literally almost dropped to my knees and said a prayer of gratitude that I survived the swim when I got done. And the other hard part is every other time that I've done a triathlon, even when 10 years ago, from what I could remember, even when I did that one, you get to the end of the swim and I feel like physically I'm okay. You know, like it's emotionally challenging because that's not my strong leg. But this time physically, like I could feel my legs kind of starting to cramp a little bit, and I was like, man, I'm kind of physically exhausted from that, more so than I have ever been during a swim. But I felt okay, got the wetsuit off, got on my bike, and was feeling really good. Like I got out and was feeling really good, passing a lot of people really strong on the bike at first. Come around, and I'm coming to the top of Hurricane, like the wrap around as you're coming up towards the freeway, and I was about to turn towards Coral Canyon, and then my chain kicks off, which, like, I had a borrowed bike from my friend. It was like the best bike in the world. It was such a nice bike, and I'd had zero problems. I'd been training for months with this bike, zero problems. Chain flips off. I'm like, whatever, chains do that. So I hop off, get the chain back on, no problem. And then I'm coming to the top of like Coral Canyon, where it comes to the top of the hill. And right when I come, it seemed like every time I was downshifting. So I was going from like a low gear to a higher gear. And all of a sudden it kicks off. And this time I was like in the middle of a pedal, and it kicks off and just like jams. And it was so jammed up there. I was sitting there on the side trying to get it, couldn't get the chain unjammed. Police officer, whoever you are out there, thank you. He comes over, tries to help me. He can't get it. We're just like, it's not coming unstuck. So he goes, well, I've got the number of the guy he was helping with the race, obviously. So he calls this tech, and we're waiting there. I don't know how long. It felt like forever, because I'm just sitting, you're sitting there like everybody's riding past. And the tech shows up, was super awesome, professional, like pulls the bike, I don't know all the parts, what they're all called, but pulls the bike kind of apart, pulls the chain out, gets it back on, gets me back all set. I don't know how long that took, but by this time I'll admit, I was getting pretty deflated. So I was like 20 minutes too long on the swim, and now I was like 25, I don't know how long, but it took me a while. But I said, I'm still gonna push. I pushed, and I had a great bike, got out, out into Ivans. That strip in Ivans was awesome. There's like, you're on the flat road. I was feeling really good. Climbed up Snow Canyon. The climb felt good. Like no cramping. I was feeling strong. Get to the top of Snow Canyon. Chain kicks off again. So obviously it's like when I'm starting to, go from that low gear to the high gear, kicks off again, but it doesn't get jammed. I get it unstuck, and I'm good, and I finish the bike. By this time, I knew, like, I was checking my time, and it was actually like I started the run about when I wanted to be done. So, and the funny part is, like, when you're training, for those that train, you kind of train you want your body to be able to perform for a certain amount of time. And I had kind of set that clock at about 5.5 to 6 hours. And I was coming up on 5.5 hours right there. Come out of the run, and I just said, I'm just going to have a comfortable run, because I knew that it was going to, like, I was getting into that overtime. And run felt good. Zero cramping. I wasn't pushing hard enough to kind of cramp. I kind of found that sweet spot. I was about 15 minutes longer than I wanted to be on the run, but I was fine with that because, it was kind of just like, just finish the race. And I was really grateful, had an awesome support crew out there. My family came, my parents, my in-laws, my brother and sister-in-law took some photos. They were out kind of right close to where my chain first fell off. And just had a lot of friendly faces, a lot of people out there. It was, I would call it a fun, well, I don't know if I'd call it a fun race. It was an enjoyable race, especially at the end when I got to like see everybody and I was running. The run is that's my leg that I'm strong in. But anyway, it was a frustrating I would say there were times of frustration. There were literally times where I didn't know if I was going to finish. And I don't know that I've ever had that feeling, like especially on the swim where I was just like going the wrong direction and it was like, am I going to get out of here? So a lot of challenges on the swim that I never really had to face mentally before. But I made it, and it was fine. I was shooting for about 5.5 to 5:45, and I got 7 hours and 3 minutes, but I made it. And as I've talked to people, a lot of them have appreciated the story of the challenge. You know, I've had dream races too. I remember when I finally, I had a goal to run a marathon in under 3 hours. And man, I could describe that race, and it was the complete opposite. It was like everything just aligned. My nutrition aligned, my body just cooperated. Obviously I had to push, and it was difficult, but it was just everything that needed to click did. And on this day, everything that could, well, not everything that possibly could go wrong. There's a lot of things, a lot of variables. But this one, it just seemed like every time where I thought that I was back on the right road, then I'd fall off again. And see, this is why I do enjoy endurance racing. Be it running, cycling, triathlons, whatever it is. I mean, as I'm talking and I'm describing this, I can think of a dozen times in my life, and I would bet as you're listening to this, you can think of a dozen times where you thought to yourself, I'm not gonna make it. I can't do this, you know, and somehow you just there in your gut, you just have to say no. Just keep going, just keep pushing. If you can get to the next buoy, that's what I had to literally say, just get to the next buoy and then see, then reassess. And so there was those times. There have been times in my life when the chain keeps falling off. You get your momentum and you're okay, now I'm okay. Now things are going to be cruising. And then the chain falls off again. And sometimes it gets bound up and you need to call for help. You literally can't do it on your own. You need someone else to kind of step in and use their expertise to help you get unstuck. And there was just a lot of reflection that way on life. I've oftentimes thought when I run, I hate hills, right? I mean, I don't know anybody who really loves hills, loves them. They love them because you get a lot out of them, but anytime I'm on a hill and I'm running, I like to think of myself in my life, where am I at on this hill? Am I towards the top of the hill and almost ready to, crest and come back and have a downhill for a minute? Or am I at the bottom of the hill? And I had those same types of moments, but during this triathlon on a larger scale. Now the other lesson, and this is when I said I wanted to come back to this, on reflection, my training was not enough. I was training and I was thinking, okay, I don't want to take time away from the family, so I'm going to kind of cut this corner. And some of the corners that I cut that really hurt me were, I don't have time to go out and do an open water swim. So I had never stuck my face in the temperature. I didn't prepare myself mentally for that, and that ended up really hurting me. And so for me, in hindsight, in reflection, I thought, if you want to have success, you want to be as prepared as you possibly can. And I know in life sometimes you can't be fully prepared, but in this case, there are things that I probably could have done to better prepare for that. Now the bike, super fluky. And you know what? I don't expect to ever have a day like that again with this. But again, the bike is incredible. And I don't blame, a lot of it was me, like on the shifting. I had done a lot of spinning at home. See, and this is part of my training. I had been out on the road, but not like to the extent where I'm really driving, because I was trying to make up time at this point. And so I was really driving and shifting probably a little too aggressively. And, I'd never been able to experience that on the bike to know how to deal with that. And so some lessons learned are, some days it's just not your day. And that doesn't mean that you need to quit. That means that you need to reassess your goals. And sometimes you just need to say, I just need to make it to the finish line. And when you get there, everyone's there. And then here's the other funny part too. Whenever I've had a really great race, people say congratulations, okay? And people are really nice. I'm so impressed with the community that I live in, my family. Everybody's so loving and kind. And when I have a great race, they're like, you're awesome. But I have never had like such outreach of like, hey, good job for finishing. Good job for not stopping. I've had so much more interaction from people having a rough race. I think people can relate to that. So I think just, if you're having a bad day, reach out to people because they can relate more to your challenges than they can your successes, They can everybody's been there, had a bad day. And, the good days, they're like, oh, you don't need me now. But I've been so impressed by just the outreach and the kindness. And it's not like, I'm fine. Like, I've signed up for an Olympic event and I'll be fine. And I understand that some races go good and some races don't go so good. But it's been really fascinating to see how awesome people can be to just reach out. So, reach out, talk about your failures too, because people can support you in those. Ask for help when you need help. Like I said, keep pushing and shoot for that finish line. And, and you can do it. Like, you can do it. You can do really hard things. I can do difficult things. I know that. And if you just kind of take it a little piece at a time, then you'll be able to get there. And then train properly. Like, if you can, don't cut too many corners. I know in life we get time is precious. And so I don't regret the amount of time that I spent training or lack thereof, but I could have been a little wiser with the way that I used it so that I could be more prepared for the challenges that are out there. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I hope that was helpful for you. Again, we're going to be taking a small break while I'm gone on this service trip. If I'm going to try to interview some people. If I do, we might just like have them drop while I'm gone. I have a few others that I'd recorded, so keep an eye out for those. But be patient with us. Don't abandon us. We'll be back. I'll be back and we'll get with the podcast. I love this. I've loved talking to people. I get to sit in this chair or this chair and talk with the most amazing people. We are surrounded. I grab locals, patients, people that I just run into in our area. And I honestly am getting to the I'm getting to the point where I feel like I could go open the door and yell out and say, hey, you, come here and let me talk to you. And it would be a fascinating, glimpse into an amazing life. There's so many amazing people that we're surrounded by. And I'm privileged to be able to, talk with them for a minute and share their story. And I want to find, some unique ones. And I think we've done a really good job so far, but it's been enjoyable. So those are my thoughts for today. Sorry you get just me, race report, And this is Dr. Traveler, and I am signing out. All right, thanks for listening today. Hey, if you could please go on, like, subscribe, make a comment, go on to all the other social media. Go on to Facebook, Instagram, go on to TikTok, search for Healthology Experts. It really helps us to grow and push this message. And if you gain value from this, then go on and please participate. We try to get to all of the questions or anything that you have, any responses or comments. So go, like, subscribe, do all the stuff that you know helps us. All right, guys, see ya.